Good afternoon. I'm Jim Eskin, and on behalf of Eskin Fundraising Training, it is my privilege to welcome you to our 119th Nonprofit Empowerment Webinar. This is the format for today's program. I have a series of questions I'll be asking our subject matter expert, Erica Waasdorp, who I like to call the First Lady of Monthly Giving. This is her third encore presentation with us, and I'm going to get to a fuller introduction. We calculated that she now has given over 1,500 presentations, either live or through the virtual format. She's written books. She's prolifically written and presented, and I could take an hour to read her CV, but I won't. And I also like to introduce my co-host, Randa Luna, who is a regional coach for the Institute of Philanthropic Excellence, and she's a little north of me. Randa, welcome. And could you tell us for a moment, tell us about the Institute for Philanthropic Excellence?
Yeah. So the Institute is a national consulting firm. Typically, we work with smaller to mid-sized nonprofits on some kind of major campaign. It often ends up being someone's first capital campaign. But the reason that I joined up and the reason that I enjoy working with the team is because of the way that they really embrace like a partnership with each company we work with. It's not just consulting and saying, well, there's what you should do. You're welcome. It's really working with people, embracing their mission and helping them make a real impact, which feels like good work to me.
Erica, what do you say we get to business?
That sounds great. I'm seeing some great questions already.
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Well, we got plenty for you. We're going to put you to work, okay? Okay. Your second book, congratulations, is a complete self-help how-to guide, Monthly Giving Made Easy. Can you take a few minutes to explain the contents? And by the way, did you record an audio version?
Yeah. I had it recorded. I did not do it myself, but I created an audiobook
Okay,
version
wow.
as well. Yeah.
Wow, wow.
Actually, that came because somebody asked me saying, "Hey, is it available on Audible?" I'm like, no, so I did it. But yeah, so my first book was Monthly Giving, The
Yeah.
Sleeping Giant, which I wrote in 2012. And believe it or not, in those days, most of the donor-based CRMs, most of the online payment platforms that we're seeing now, they did not exist.
Huh.
They were not even there yet. So, I mean, a lot has changed, right? So
Yeah.
now every single platform, every single donor base has the recurring giving option built in. So that's why I said, well, hey, maybe I need to write the second book, Monthly Giving Made Easy, because guess what? You have the tools. You just gotta start asking. You gotta start driving people to go to those pages, right? So the book is literally like, I mean, it has obviously table of contents. You can say, well, hey, what can I do with an extra button? What can I do here? What can I do there, right? You literally can open a book and say, let me just like, put a pin in there and say, oh, hey, I can do this,
Yeah.
So there's lots and lots and lots of simple, cheap options to ask a donor to consider giving monthly, because again, you have the tools, right? So it's not like it's expensive anymore to get started. It's not, but it takes a little time.
Yeah.
So literally take the time to open the book and pick a page and saying, let me start with that. Let me add a second button. Let me add, add monthly giving on the homepage, with a button. There's lots and lots of different things that you can do very simply and cheap, just with a little bit of time.
Okay. I have, by the way, is that your husband doing yard work in the background? You have somebody who.
Oh yeah, that is him.
You have him well trained, Erica.
I do. He likes doing
Okay,
that. Yeah.
I got two questions I had to ask you since you're one of the best known authorities in our profession. Everybody is talking about AI, artificial intelligence. What do you see as the potential And what do you see as the limitations of artificial intelligence?
Yeah, great. I mean, my first my first impression was to start rolling my eyes. So it's like because AI is a tool. I mean, there's lots of AI tools out there now. And there are some companies that are investigating things that they can do when it comes to retention, right? Like trying to predict who is probably going to
Yeah,
be churning as one of your monthly donors and stop
yeah,
giving. So there's some of the artificial intelligence going on there, but it's not quite working well yet because AI is training, has to be
yeah,
trained, right? So you need a lot of data, you need a lot of activities to process it and to train it. I mean, I know AI has been around for like helping with ask strings. What amounts should you be asking for? Again, that too takes time. It's not totally there yet, right? Even models are not, they're not, it's not there
yeah,
yet. So the way I look at it is like AI is a tool. Don't worry too much about what you have. If you have Chat
yeah,
GPT, it will help you with your getting your creative juices flowing. So if
yeah.
you're saying, well, I'm kind of stuck, I want to send a thank you note, but I'm not sure, start there and then, make it more human and friendly
Yeah.
and, customize it. I mean, it's a starting point, right? It's almost like the way I look at it, it's like, it's almost like a spell check in your word,
That's a
you know.
very
I
interesting
mean,
analogy. Thank you.
it's like, yeah, it's like, use that. I mean, we're all using spell checks, right? And we have
Yeah.
Excel formulas and, whatever. So use it as a tool, but I mean, stop worrying about because it's not going to raise more
I'm
money.
sorry. I don't think it can think for you. It can do some things. It can't think for you. It doesn't have a heart, does it?
No, and again, it's like nothing beats the personal connection.
Yeah.
Nothing beats like sending a thank you note, personalized thank you note, or making a phone call, So and again, I think it's like where, there's so much time that we're, I don't know, in my
Yeah.
opinion, wasting on it. So it's like
Yeah.
it's a tool, use it, don't worry about it, and then, but implement it and but get that thank you letter out. That's much more important and
Yeah.
make it human, right?
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
you and I are together on that. Together, we're also together on the importance of lobster rolls. Let me go to another non-monthly giving question.
Yeah.
There is growing concern about hacking and computer security. How can nonprofits ensure their monthly donors that their precious financial information will be kept secure?
Well, it's a really, important question. I mean, one of the things that is important to verify when you're talking about monthly giving is that you have whoever your donation platform is. I know some of them say they're free, and they only charge anything, but it's really important when it comes to recurring giving that you have some type of contract with those providers that what happens, that there's something, hey, if information gets leaked, or even if you want to move to another platform down the road or something, there's some guideline as to who owns the data, who has access to it. So I think that's really, really important when it comes, especially because if we're looking at some recent study that Neon One put out on looking at like, people in their database, um, I mean, the average monthly donor stays with you for 8 years, right?
Wow.
So yeah, so you
That's
wanna make
longer
sure
than a lot of marriages these days.
so you wanna make sure that you really, can verify where they're going to be and that they're staying with you in that particular safe area. So I mean, adding a trust certificate on your website, again, doing regular like checkups on making sure that the data is really safe and secure, because yes, data breaches are happening. So, and again, if you have no contract, you have nothing to stand on, right?
Yeah.
So that's a key. And I know, like, I was talking to somebody at a conference a while back, and I said, well, one of these like bigger companies says, oh, well, we don't do contracts. It's like, yeah, they do, but you got to push them for it. right?
Yeah.
So you may need to say, well, I really want something because my plan is to bring in a lot of monthly donors and I
Yeah.
want to make sure that they're protected. So the hacking thing, I mean, again, there's things about checks and, I mean, you got to just like make sure, hey, where are these donors coming from? Are they coming from Russia or China or, I mean, or some of these weird countries that's not, you don't even have donors there, so
Yeah.
yes, you need to have like those security practices in place, and that's really an IT thing.
Yeah.
So but yes, it's important because again, the key is that you want to give the donor the feeling that their data is secure.
Yeah.
And if you say, look, this is my policy, here's what, here are all the things that we're doing. I mean, it could happen. You just don't know,
And
right? But you
plus,
need to be
I think
aware of it.
the right thing is aligned with self-interest. I left the practitioner role in 2018, but I had a policy at my 3 higher education institutions. I mean, we were never, ever, ever going to share donor information.
Right.
Part of that was ethical,
Right. Yeah.
and also that was self-interest. I worked hard to get those donors. Do you think I'm going to share those with Randa or Erica? No way.
Right. Right. So, and again, there's a lot of like states that are getting more strict in data protection, right? So, I mean, I hope that we're not going to get to the point where a lot of European countries had to get through like the data protection rules that they have, because they're really limiting for fundraising. It's kind of like the pendulum has swung too far, in my opinion. But you just got to know what those rules are, and again, I mean, we want to make sure that we protect the donor information. So
Yeah. Well, listen, we've delayed enough. Let's get to the
no, it's
mechanics
important.
of,
It's
yeah,
important.
it is.
Yeah.
But let's get to the mechanics of monthly giving. And let's start from square one. Define what monthly giving is and tell us what it isn't.
Okay, that's a great question. So monthly, and like, first of all, like there's a lot of definitions out there that you may have heard, like recurring giving, monthly giving, sustainer giving.
Yeah.
Like I heard the term recently, benevolent subscriptions. That's
Ah,
another term, right? So and the reason why I like to talk about monthly giving is because in my experience and what I've seen over the 31 years that I've been doing this is like monthly donors tend to give the most amount of money. So,
yeah.
but if you look at like in general, most organizations are talking about recurring donors now
Yeah.
because they have some other frequencies like quarterlies or yearly,
Yeah.
annual sustain, annual monthly donor, annual donors, things like that. But monthly donors tend to give the most amount of money. And again, it's sort of an entry point to get, a donor makes an automatic gift from either their credit card account or their bank account.
Yeah.
And it's money that you can plan on as an organization. So that's really what monthly giving is.
Well,
It's a
I love
way
the
to,
term
yeah,
monthly because I don't care if it's at your office or at your home. You budget on a monthly basis. You study your expenses and your income on a monthly basis.
right.
Okay, let's get to another really pivotal question. What does it take to start a monthly giving program if you don't have one?
Right. So again, the first step is look at your tools, right? So say, okay, look at what's your donor base, what is, the payment platform that you're using to process online gifts. Okay. So, well, what are you doing when it comes to asking for recurring gifts? Is typically most donation forms online have the one-time gift option, and then there's a button that says click here to make a recurring gift, or or like a toggle one-time monthly. So there's
You know
a
what that
lot of
tells
these.
me? They
Yeah.
heard one of your presentations. That's why they put it on there.
Well, no, I mean, well, that's probably because I mean I've been working with some of these donor-based companies
Yeah.
early on, and they did that, right? So, but yes, yeah. So they would start with your one time and make sure that your recurring giving option is on your one-time giving
Yeah.
form, and then ideally, create a monthly only form because you want to start directing people to go there in your communications. So once you have that form, then you can put it on social media. You can create
Yeah.
buttons from the homepage. I mean, you can put buttons in your emails. You can have multiple buttons in your email, one-time gift and monthly, right? But you got to drive them to go to the monthly page. So those are the couple of things that you want to make sure that you check what you have, what you can do there. And then also it's really important to say, what are the thank you messages that are associated with those forms? And then what can you make it a little bit more warm fuzzy? Is there a special thank you message that goes out when somebody makes a monthly
Yeah.
gift, right? Make sure that you test that. Again, it sounds silly, but the last thing you want to have happen is you're like, okay, hey, I've got it in place. I'm ready to start asking for it. And then, oops, well, thanks for your one-time gift of, and it's like, no, oh, that was not what I meant to do, right? So, and again, unfortunately, every single system is different, so you need to
Yeah.
check it for your
Yeah.
for your system. But yeah, I mean, I think that's really kind of like work on the back end, work on, like the
Yeah.
the back office process. Make sure that you have like the thank you letter ready to go. I mean,
Yeah.
your thank you messaging, and have a little phone script if you want to give somebody
Yeah.
like the task to make a thank you call the minute
Yeah.
somebody makes a monthly. Involve your board and say, hey,
Yeah.
we're going to sit down and handwrite personal notes because these monthly donors started. So I think the other piece is, and this is really, really important because I deal with organizations of all sizes, and even the
Yeah.
big guys, they say, oh, we want to go sustainer first. It's all about monthly giving. It's all about monthly giving. And then they
Yeah.
say that, but then they
Yeah.
don't really look at the long-term effect that these monthly donors have. And then they're like, oh, yeah, we want to do monthly giving, but we really also need to have this one-time money coming in the door, right? So it's that
Yeah.
fine line with saying, okay, you want to look at the long term and evaluate those monthly donors at least on an annual basis. So if somebody say makes a $10 a month gift, not that much, right? But if you look at the fact that they give you $120 a year,
For
now
eight
if you have
years. For 8 years.
3 years, exactly, right? So there is, and if you look at the fact that I was looking at an organization today in this workshop I was teaching, and we had one organization, they had 1,300 monthly donors.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, well, what's your average gift? And
Yeah.
we literally like plugged it into a little template
Sure.
planner, and it was more than $1 million a year.
Wow.
And they're like, they didn't even know that.
You're
They did
kidding me.
not know that they had, 1,300 monthly donors were worth that much money, right? So, so it's just like, so start with what's the annualized value there, right? And again, some organizations are using 5-year value, some 8. But it's really all about
Yeah.
the long term. So one of the other things is, and because I'm going to use like everybody loves Charity Water, right? Charity
Yeah.
Water,
Right. Right.
yay!
Right.
We want to
Right.
be like
Yeah.
Charity Water. And what they forget
Yeah.
is the fact that Charity Water, the reason why they're growing their monthly giving program so much is because in 2015 they said, you know what? We're not going to worry too much about these one-time gifts.
Yeah.
We are going to go all out. It's all about monthly giving.
Yeah.
That's it. It's
Yeah.
all about monthly giving. That was the mindset change, the alignment that they all had,
Yeah.
saying, we got to start thinking about the long term.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
And you got limited resources and staff time and board
right,
time.
right.
And where are you going to get your greatest return on investment? And that gets me to my next question. It almost sounds like, Erica, that monthly giving is too good to be true. By the way, your husband is really working hard. I think he deserves a good dinner
I
tonight.
didn't
But
say that to him.
anyways,
Look, so I didn't know he was going to do
yeah.
this.
Well,
Sorry
I was
about
going
that.
to
Yeah.
say, can
Yeah.
you share some of the returns on investment with monthly giving?
Yeah, so again, I mean, if you look at the fact that if we look at this Neon One study, for example, that they just did, where they looked at like 4 years of recurring donors in for all of their clients in their database, and they saw that the average monthly donor is worth like $900 a year.
Yeah.
They're going to stay with you for 8 years,
Wow.
and they're 50% of them are making extra gifts.
Mm.
So just because
That's
they
not
give
an either
monthly,
or then. That's a win-win.
exactly, right? So now again, if we look at some other bigger organizations, I mean, next week the MNR strategic benchmarking is coming out, the
Yeah.
sustainer benchmarking is coming out. So I'm waiting for all of that statistic information, but because I
And by
love
the
stats
way,
on.
we love the way you share all these
Oh
resources and
yeah.
data in your weekly email or more. So, I mean, you're a lifelong learner and you're a lifelong sharer. Thank you.
Yeah. No, I mean that's like it's a great way because I mean I have seen the power of it. I continue to see the power of it. So, and I know like that's why it's my legacy to kind of
Yeah.
share with others the power of how they can do it. And again, it's not hard anymore, but it does require a little bit of a mindset, right? So, but yeah, I mean, if I look at these statistics, some of the bigger organizations, they might get like $25 a month. So that's $300 a year. But
Yeah.
if you look at the fact that again, they're staying with you for 5 to 8 years, so now it's like worth a lot more money, right? So, and I think the other thing is again, the initial investment, especially for smaller organizations, are you have to start offering the donors the opportunity to
Yeah.
make a monthly gift. Now, having said that, it's really important to be very targeted. So you don't want to ask $1,000 donor necessarily to make a monthly gift because
Yeah.
you're trying to upgrade them to 2,500 and
Yeah.
$5,000.
Yeah.
Now, if you have a conversation, right, and a donor says, I wish I could do more, then well, maybe you can consider making a monthly gift. And they might say, okay, well, I'll do $200 a month. So now you've just taken $1,000 donor and, turned them into a $2,400 a year. So again, but that takes a conversation. So most monthly donors are small donors. They care about your organization. They're on a fixed budget, or they have to look at how much money they have to spend. And again, they're like they can do $10 or $25 a month, maybe $50 a month, and then again they're going to stay with it. It's kind of like setting and forgetting it type of thing. So
Hey, the
yeah.
nonprofit sector is huge. It's 1.5 million nonprofit 501c3s. Is monthly giving particularly popular among any sectors of the nonprofit industry?
Well, I mean, I would say if I look at those organizations that have been really successful with it, it's, believe it or not, it's public television
Yeah.
and public radio, right?
Yeah.
I mean, granted, they're getting about $11 a month on
Yeah.
average, but they got a huge number of them, right?
Yeah.
So they get a huge number of them, and they're asking for upgrades and, like extra
And
gifts
they've
and
been
all that
doing
kind
it a long
of.
time.
They've been doing it a
I'm
long time.
afraid to give it away. I remember as a kid in the 60s, hearing their monthly giving messages,
Yes,
and I was
they've been doing it a
never
long
hearing
time.
it anywhere
Yes,
else.
right. So that's like, so they're really kind of like some of the, the initial leaders. Animal welfare has
Yeah.
historically done this for a very long time. And environmental organizations, they've been very successful with it. Human services, health, I
Yeah.
mean, arts organizations, they're still really lagging
Yeah.
behind a little bit, but they are seeing
Yeah.
higher average gifts.
Yeah.
So, but yes, those are the leaders are like environmental, religious, a lot of religious
Mm.
organization. If
Hmm.
you look at EWTN, their leader, and I'm blanking on her name right now, but she would always like
Yeah.
promote monthly giving as keep us between your gas and electric bill. So again, kind of like, make it small and doable, and like we're just kind of like your utility, if you will, and
Yeah.
just start giving monthly, right? So, and that's how they grew their monthly donors. So
Yeah.
but yeah, those are kind of the ones that I would say have been most successful with it. But again, they've been at it much longer. So
Yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah.
personally ran a program, in 6 countries for an animal welfare organization,
Mm.
but the US was the smallest.
Huh.
I mean, Canada was bigger than the US.
Huh.
Australia was bigger. And again, those people have also historically, I mean, people in Europe historically, I mean, I'm Dr. Rachel, right? So we've historically been able to give from our bank account
Yeah.
automatically, and it was really the way of life, right?
Yeah.
So again, that's changing now in
I
terms of
told you I'm going to deviate, but I think in my last show, you pointed out something I hadn't heard. You said from giving from ETF and all that there's a
EFT. Yeah.
projection that checks are going to disappear by 2026.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Think
Yeah.
about that.
So again, if you ask, like, I mean, love to kind of know when you're in the room here, like how many people are still using checks, right?
Yeah.
Now, again, yeah, I was like
Hey, by
looking
the way,
as,
let's
yeah,
test that.
yes, let's test
How
that.
many,
Right.
type in the chat space if your organization, uh,
No, if
I
you
would think,
personally are still
yeah,
writing
are
checks.
you
Yeah.
all accepting checks?
Right. Yeah.
Or not accepting?
Are you writing? Yeah.
Are you getting a good chunk of checks as far as your gift income?
Right.
Yes, no, or no opinion.
Right.
Okay, I got a yes there.
Yeah.
Hey,
So a
by the
lot
way,
of, yeah,
yeah,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. I
No,
want
go
to
ahead.
bring in a member of our learning community to give
Yeah.
a broader perspective. Marv Roy, are you available? Marv is the founder of the Institute for Philanthropic Excellence, and he has started capital campaigns through his 40 coaches. That looks like a stage photo of you, Marv. I wanted to see you without a tie on, but anyways, he's the most formal guy I know. Marv, are you there?
I'm trying to figure this out. Hang on. Why am I not on the
That's
screen?
okay. Yeah, that's your favorite sport coat. He's been to San Antonio a lot. He said he's almost going to get me one. I like his sport coat there. Hey, Marv.
Hey.
I know you're real. Number one, you love monthly givers. Number one,
Mhm.
because you're all about major gift initiatives and capital campaigns, and they are a very attractive audience to focus on for a major gift appeal. And also, you work on a lot of capital campaign gifts, and the rationale is the same, is you want people to stretch their giving, is to give them longer pledge periods. But I'd like to bring you
Right.
into this discussion.
Yeah, no question. We're big fans of Erica's and all the great pros in that arena. We're fans of people in the annual fund world. That's where it all begins, and most of us began there as professionals, oh, so many years ago. Most of us also couldn't wait to get out and get into the real world of major gifts and campaigns. But the real work in developing donor trends and habits starts with those regular gifts, and whether they're
Yeah.
annual or monthly or quarterly or however people are giving. We're big fans, and the folks who are willing to move to habitual giving on a more frequent than annual basis become our real friends in campaigns, because we're really promoting multi-year
Yeah,
gift
sure.
commitment and pledges. So people who are inclined to make gifts over a period of time and promises will also be more inclined to do that within a campaign environment. So we love the work that's going on in this arena. I will tell you, that being said, most of the giving that we're seeing that is outside of just an annual check or an annual commitment, whether it's monthly or quarterly or some biannually, whatever, comes electronically, comes by way of a
Yeah.
credit card payment. And that really is a huge trust factor that people have to get over. I know you already asked the question of Erica about, protecting your databases
Yeah.
and things like that. I don't make any gifts or payments with my credit card except through a third party
Yeah.
friend that I use. I use PayPal, and I do all of my giving online and all of my payment of bills online using that trusted partner. If they mess up and have a bad day, they're out of business. So I think it's a good idea for our nonprofit partners to think about using a third party trusted partner to accept those gifts. You may have to lose a percentage of the gifts, but a lot of people are willing to even pay that percentage if you let them know that there's a cost.
I think again, that's another thing I see everyone doing. Will you incur the maintenance cost, the fee, the banking fee? And I always check. I don't know. I forget the percent. It's pretty minimal. And, just think those who weren't asking before, like they weren't asking about considering monthly giving. We've been talking about the Institute for Philanthropic Excellence. Marv, we're going to turn to one of your coaches who provides, I call it the millennial side of my brain. And Randa, you have a couple of questions for our expert, and I'd like to bring you into the discussion right now.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, this has been a great conversation. Thank you, Erica, and thanks, Jim. Wow. So I've noticed a shift in donor engagement preferences, or maybe it's more my awareness of them, which is good still, but towards much more personalized and interactive experiences overall. So I'm curious about what you think, just what your thoughts are on how monthly giving programs can stay adaptable enough to meet the expectations of younger donors who value the transparency and impact and more meaningful connections with the causes they're supporting.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot has changed obviously since COVID, right? So it's a lot easier to, I think, for a lot of nonprofits, again, without a lot of heavy lifting, to start creating those opportunities to I'm seeing virtual town halls on a regular basis, or like whatever they call it, like the insider scoop from the executive, whatever the name that they give it, right? So where it's like, okay, well, so I think your gift is helping here, and or like I saw like somebody, again, especially younger, right? He's standing in front of like some people that were helped, like wherever it is, or some animals that were helped, and hey, I'm standing here right here, and this is how your gift is making a difference, right? So those are like, wow, like, and it doesn't have to take very long, it doesn't have to be very, I think it doesn't have to be overproduced. It needs to be genuine and come from the heart, and be as personal as possible. I think those
no dig at AI, by the way. No dig at AI.
So I think those are some things, ways that you can engage. And I think the other thing is, like I said, I was teaching a workshop today, and one of the homework assignments that they had was calling up some donors, or sitting down with some donors and asking them, why are they giving monthly, and what, and also asking them, like, how would you like to be engaged, right? And and then they can share and saying, I don't hear much about what you're doing, or I'm so I think in the old days when we started in multi-giving, it was like, we got to be careful. We don't want to make them realize too much that they're giving monthly. So, so now that but seriously, that was like, oh, we got to be careful, right? So now it's like, no. What is some of the stewardship things that you can do in your organization? And, a thank you video from the executive director, there's lots and lots of things. And again, I'm all for keeping it simple, but also repurpose stuff. So
That's
I think
a great word.
Repurpose.
That is a great word.
So because some organizations, they're spending a lot of time on creating something for social media, but then they're not putting it in an email. Or, again, you could build it in a welcome email series, right? So there's a couple of things that you can do that again are not necessarily a lot of heavy lifting, but engage your donors, even I think younger donors. I mean, postcards are great.
Yeah.
Again, text messaging obviously is growing, right? So those are great. Those are some ways that you can say, hey, I'm right here, here's how your gift is making a difference.
A huge issue right now in our industry is retention.
Yeah.
I want you to talk about how retention, how monthly giving can boost retention.
Yeah, so this is another great reason why monthly giving is so powerful, because if you can get, I see one person says here, hey, we got a lot of credit cards, but more online checks is becoming more popular. So if you can get a monthly donor to give by credit card, you're seeing about a 87% retention rate.
What was that? Repeat that again.
87%
That's
retention
insane.
rate.
That's insane.
So that's right now, I think we're seeing about 43% is the average retention rate for donors. So if you can do 87%, that's doubling it, right? If you can get them to write, to do it via electronic funds transfer, automatic bank withdrawal, then you're looking at retention rates of 94, 95%.
Yeah.
So because people don't change their banks that often, right? So, so those are all great, reasons why monthly giving is so powerful. So they're staying with you, they're engaged.
I would think our industry retention, I don't know. I think it's somewhere around 40 to 50%. 43. Thank you. It's insane at 43.
And that's
so much more
donors.
It's so much more efficient to hold on to an existing donor, than to try to acquire a new donor.
Right. And again, some people said, well, hey, I want to see some statistics. If you look at, to your point, Randa too, it's younger donors are actually more comfortable giving monthly. Again, it fits their budget.
I wanted to get that. I was just, you're ahead of me. Getting demographic. Why do you think that's so? And I want to come back to Randa, because you're the youngest person among the three of us. Erica, why do you think that's so? And Randa, why do you think that's true?
So, I don't have the statistic in front of me, but I know right now about 18% of baby boomers are giving monthly.
Yeah.
And if you look at some of the big organizations, they're seeing some of that as 18% of their donors are giving monthly, right? And the revenue is usually even higher than that. They're seeing 25 to 30% of their revenue comes in from monthly donors. If we're looking at younger donors, those percentages are going up. So I think it's 38% of
wow. That's great, because they're the future. You can engage them early on. You engage me. Luckily I'll maybe have 20, 25 more years to give you gifts. But if you get Gen Z, you got 50 years and more.
Right.
Randa, why do you think monthly giving is so attractive to Gen Z and millennials?
I just overall, this may be more anecdotal. I don't have statistics and numbers, but I think generally speaking, younger generations are a lot more focused on, like I talked about earlier, the impact and how meaningful things are. I think we have a desire to give back in some way. And so even if it's giving $10 a month is less than we pay for Netflix at this point. And we don't have cable anymore. So we got Netflix, Hulu, and our monthly gift, and we're set. I think I think it's more comfortable.
Yes. If you look at there's a trend right now, donor advised funds, right?
Yeah.
Very popular, major gift. But did you know that you can also make recurring gifts from donor advised funds, right?
No, I didn't.
You can set up a $50 a month recurring gift. So and you may need to look in your database and say, hey, help me.
I'm learning something here, which is, I have a world of potential. Is that the way you deposit money into, say, your Fidelity or your Vanguard, your Schwab? how's the monthly work with the DAF?
Wait,
Or is
so
that the way it's dispersed?
it's dispersed, right? So you can say if you're sitting down in your front of your donor advice fund, I have one in Fidelity, right? So I sit down and saying, okay, well, I want to give this to this organization, and it you can say make this a recurring grant. Do you want this grant to recur? Do you want to have an end date? In this particular case, it does have an end date, and but it does have to be a minimum of $50 a month.
Okay.
So, but yes, you basically say, look, I want to give, and I want to do it on a recurring basis through my DAF. So,
By the way, that $50 minimum makes sense because probably you at DAF, I think what's the typical size monthly gift? It's like 20, 25.
Well, again, like, it depends on the type of organization, but like the big organizations, they're seeing about $25 a month.
Yeah. And I'm saying if you get a DAF, probably you're pretty affluent, really. I mean, you're not super rich, but let's just say you're upper middle class. Randa, you did such a good job. I want my millennial side of my brain to chime in with another question. Yeah.
Okay, good. I've got another
Great
one.
questions. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for your thorough answers. I worry these are long-winded, but I appreciate it. So diversity, equity, and inclusion are a big conversation, central values for a lot of nonprofits right now and in their fundraising strategies. So how can we ensure our monthly giving programs reflect those back and like engage and amplify the voices of our underrepresented communities like women and people of color and people in the LGBTQ plus community?
Well, so here's the thing. I mean, again, you can literally, depending upon your system, but you can literally make a gift of as little as $5 a month or $10 a month, right? So, so I think that's kind of like, I mean, it doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter what time of day you give. I mean, I mean, it's like you can give as little as $5 a month. I mean, there's one organization that they did an email campaign where they asked for $2 a month.
Huh.
And and then they drove them to it was an animal organization, and then they drove them to the webpage where they had like $2 a month and a couple of other options, and they were really worried that they were going to get like these low average gifts. And what they found was they got more people to go there. So it was driving more people there, but then ultimately people said, oh, you know what, I can do $10 a month, or I can do $15 a month. So they were kind of self-identifying, right? So, but I think, again, giving the donor the feeling that they can make a difference to an organization they care about in a way that they can afford, that fits their budget, that fits their lifestyle, whatever is that, I think that's kind of the key, right? So, and again, it's like, ultimately, it still is all about asking the donor to help, right? So you still got to make your case. You still got to tell them why.
It doesn't happen. I don't care what time.
Right.
Asking, that's the word, asking.
You got to ask. So I think that's kind of, but donors want to help. But not everybody can write the big checks, and that's totally fine. So again, you're giving them the feeling like, hey, you're going to be really special. You're going to get all this engagement, and we really, updates because you're making an impact. So it's not like, oh my God, you're only like able to give $10 a month. So I think that's like you really you could make an impact in a way that's comfortable for you. So.
Probably if we were talking with Mackenzie Scott, we'd be talking about $1 million a month for her program. But, she's given now $17 billion. She's one of my superheroes.
Yeah.
And all great. Unrestricted. And talk
she should
a little
do some
about
matches.
It.
She should do some matches for monthly giving. I mean, I think that would be like, hey,
give
all these organizations. Yeah.
You love monthly giving. I always loved unrestricted giving. Can you talk about the relationship between monthly giving and unrestricted giving?
Typically monthly giving is unrestricted. It's annual fund. It's operating revenue.
Unpack that a little.
So, well, again, the reason is because you don't want, I mean, you can always ask a donor to say, well, will you support this special project and all other, ongoing programs with a monthly gift, right? So you can always unrestrict it. If you say, well, I really want to also raise money for this particular project, but monthly giving is operating revenue. It supports your
one of my pet peeves.
It's unrestricted. It supports your annual fund.
Nonprofits need unrestricted money more than anything else, and I can't figure out why they won't ask for it. let me say, do yourself a favor and go to that website. It is so rich with free and lucrative resources. And, Erica, what you woke me up where you said probably the majority of nonprofits don't have monthly giving programs.
Not really. I mean,
Folks,
they're like sort of organic. They might have
Yeah.
a few, but they're not
But look at
focusing on
that,
it.
the other side, way to look at that. Look at
You can
the
only go-
upside from starting one. If you want to make a real difference maker in your gift income,
Mhm.
Start a monthly giving program. Go to that website and you'll have all the tools and resources you need. If you need expert assistance, I know Erica usually returns an email within 10 minutes. She usually returns a phone call within 4 minutes, and you are available. You are one of the most cost-effective consultants I know in our profession. So would it be safe to say, Erica, the audience can feel very, very safe in reaching out to you
Oh,
for
absolutely. Yeah.
counsel and
Yes.
how to either to get a program started or to take it up to the next level. Erica, thank you not only for enriching our hour, but thank you for the leadership you have provided the entire nonprofit sector. And again, I don't know anyone on the planet who adds more advocacy for the upside of monthly giving. So thank you for your time, always sharing it with our learning community. But thank you for the leadership and making yourself available to lift up all nonprofits, all sizes, all sectors. Let me thank Randall Luna and for helping me think
This was
more
great.
like a
Thanks, Randy.
millennial. And this is what we're going to do. We have a short summary of key points that Erica made. That's going to be posted on LinkedIn and Facebook. And then John Largent, our Crackerjack producer, is going to do a spin dry of the editing overnight. And we are going to post a recording of this program on Facebook and LinkedIn and other social media. So I want to thank our learning community. You are what we are in business for, because every day you're doing something to make the world better. Thank you for your contributions and service and leadership. Thank you, Erica. And I got a feeling it won't be too long until we're sharing those lobster rolls on the cake. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
And remember, reward your husband. You really had him working hard in the yard. Okay.
Yeah, I'll tell him. Say, yeah, I have to be in the picture.
Hey, listen,
Okay.
do well.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, all right.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much, Erica.
Bye.
Thank you,
Good luck.
Randa.
Okay. Thank you.